Hi everyone, welcome to the class. In the previous class, we have discussed with the basic composition as nucleotides for building the polynucleotide chain, that is nucleic acids. So we have seen what are all the compositions of a nucleotide, that is a nitrogenous base, a pentose sugar, and a phosphate. So we know that the two types of nucleic acid, that is DNA and RNA. If you take any nucleic acid, so they are the polynucleotides of the respective nucleotides. We know that the difference between the DNA and RNA so lies with the nitrogenous base, and the structural aspects will try to continue in the present class. Now, to relate, the pentose sugar present in DNA is deoxyribose sugar, and the pentose sugar which is present in RNA is ribose sugar. And if we take the nitrogenous bases, we have two types of nitrogenous bases. It is purines and pyrimidines. So purines are adenine and guanine. Pyrimidines are cytosine, thymine, and uracil. Adenine and guanine as a purine basis, so they are common for both DNA as well as for RNA. Whereas, so if we take the pyrimidines, cytosine is seen both in DNA and in RNA. Thymine is seen only in DNA, whereas uracil is seen only in RNA. So these informations, so we learned in the last class. So along with that, so we have seen how a nucleoside is formed. When a pentose sugar, that is the hydroxyl group, the anomeric carbon atoms hydroxyl group of the pentose sugar, so if it interacts so with the N9 of purine base or N1 of pyrimidine base, so the interaction of the base and sugar leads to a nucleoside. Whereas a nucleotide is formed, so once a nitrogenous base, so which is interacted with the pentose sugar, if it is added by a phosphate, so that is a nucleoside with a phosphate addition forms a nucleotide in simple terms. So all these structural levels we learned. Now in the present class, so we'll start our discussion with the formation of a dinucleotide, so which helps us to understand the structural level of polynucleotide chain, so how it forms the DNA and RNA. We'll start observing how a dinucleotide is formed. Now we can recall the formation. So just think with a nucleoside structure, that is a nucleotide. So we know that with respect to the base and a pentose sugar interaction. So I'm not writing the complete structure here, just to show how they interact. So I will use those information. Now at this particular position, a nitrogenous base gets added to the pentose sugar, whether it is a DNA sugar or RNA sugar. Now the difference is lying at this particular carbon atom, that is the second carbon atom. Here, if it is H, so then it will be the nucleotide of DNA. So instead of H there, so if it is OH, so then it will be the uh, respective pentose sugar of RNA. So hence, we'll try to consider either OH or H. So if it is OH, so then it will be RNA. So if you write H here, so then it will be DNA sugar or a DNA nucleotide, how it is going to be represented. Then, so if you relate the complete structure here, so the fifth carbon's hydroxyl group is going to interact with the phosphate and the phosphate is represented the phosphoric acid group. So in the form of phosphate, so it is interacted with the hydroxyl group of fifth carbons of the pentose sugar, and this is the phosphate how it is formed. So you can just recall the information. Now whatever the bond formed here, it is an ester bond. Already, so an ester bond is present. So it is phosphoester bond we can call. It is phosphoester bond. Now this is one nucleotide. So if the difference is with presence of either OH group or H, so it will make the nucleotide of RNA or a nucleotide of DNA. Then if you concentrate one more information, so with the respective position, so now this is 1 prime and this carbon is 2 prime and this is 3 prime and this is 4 prime and this carbon is 5 prime. And this indicates the position of carbon atoms of the pentose sugar. 1 prime, 2 prime, 3 prime, 4 prime and 5 prime. So why this is important? Because in the formation of dinucleotide, we need to relate so which of the respective groups will interact. Now, to show the dinucleotide formation, we'll consider one more similar nucleotide, so below to this, and we'll show how the interaction happens between the two in the formation of a dinucleotide. Now you can observe. So I have written one more nucleotide, so which is like the same of above. So the base may be the same type of bases or a base from a different nature also. Whatever it is. So it is one nucleotide and this is one nucleotide. So this is the first nucleotide we'll try to assume, and this we'll try to consider it as the second nucleotide. As nucleotide contains all the three parts, that is a pentose sugar, a nitrogenous base and a phosphate. Now when two nucleotides interacts, so we need to understand which are all the respective groups of the respective carbon atom of the two nucleotide interacts. So that will give the direction of polynucleotide synthesis. Now if we consider in the first nucleotide, so the 5 prime group, whatever it is there, it will be free. That means it is not going to involve in any linkage. So this is with respect to the first nucleotide. So for the first nucleotides, 5 prime end will be free. That is, it is involved in a phosphoester linkage, and this is not going to interact with other nucleotide. This group will be free without involving in linkage with next nucleotide. Whereas which is interacting, if we observe, so this particular 3 prime hydroxyl. So 3 prime hydroxyl group of first nucleotide will interact with the 5 prime phosphate. Here the phosphate will be actually, so if you consider OH, you can assume how the interaction may take place. So either this OH or this OH. So actually you need to tilt the structure like this. So the phosphate you can show it here. So once you consider the phosphate here, so this hydroxyl group and this hydroxyl group, if they interact, so again this is the acidic group. The phosphate hydroxyl group, if it is, it will be the acidic group, and this will be alcoholic group. The interaction of alcohol and the acid, again it is an ester bond. So already one phosphoester bond we have used in the formation of nucleotide, hence we'll use this as a diester bond as it is involved for a nucleotide linking. So we'll call that ester bond as phosphodiester bond. So hence, so it is going to interact with the 5 prime with respect to phosphate, whatever the hydroxyl group is there. So actually in the structure we have not shown the hydroxyl group, so we have shown in the O minus form. So if it is with OH, the interaction will be easier to understand. Now this will be the interactive points in the first nucleotide. 5 prime end is free, 3 prime hydroxyl group is going to interact with the 5 prime phosphate. And in the second nucleotide, so the 3 prime hydroxyl group is free now. So which is ready for interacting with the next nucleotide. So like this, if you keep on writing a polynucleotide extension, the 5 prime end of first nucleotide will be free and the nucleotide chain increases and the last nucleotide 3 prime hydroxyl group will be free. Hence, always nucleotide is represented in the direction of 5 prime to 3 prime end. So 5 prime to indicate in the first nucleotide that 5 prime end is free, and in the last nucleotide that 3 prime hydroxyl will be free. So that we'll try to represent now. So with the complete structure of a dinucleotide. So you can carefully observe just to make you to understand. I'm taking time to write the structure in a simpler way to write, so I can show the diagram from NCERT also. But if you keep on observing how the interaction is taken here, so that the concept you would be able to understand it clearly. Hence give attention here. Now this is the first nucleotides: base H, H, here either OH or H based on the nucleotide of DNA or RNA. H, here OH I will not write. So we'll try to show that with the linkage. It is CH2, O, P, O, O minus, O minus. Now I will write OH here, then I will show how the interaction may happen. Now the phosphate group I will write in this way. So P double bond O. Assume so that O minus of that is in the form of OH. O, it is CH2. Now the fifth prime carbon I have written in this way here. Hope you are observing. So don't get any confusions. So just I have tilted the structure to show how two nucleotides will join. The remaining part, it's just to make the completion of structural part. So here it may be H, OH or H. This one is H and this will be OH. Now, if you consider the positions, now this is the 5 prime end of the first nucleotide, and this is the 3 prime end of the same nucleotide, and this is again the 5 prime end of the second nucleotide and the 3 prime end of the second nucleotide. Now try to observe here. Now whatever this O minus is there, instead of writing in the form of O minus, I have taken as OH here. This is the OH I have assumed for this O minus. Now if these two OH and OH interacts, so a simple molecule of H2O will be removed in the process, and the oxygen of that will links these two carbon, that is this carbon and the phosphorus of phosphate. Now that you can observe. So that I will show now with writing of a complete bond. Now assume it. So this O is the oxygen of the hydroxyl group or the phosphate, so which is linking these two now. Now whatever the bond formed here, so we can call this as a bond linking the two nucleotides. Now the interaction of the 3 prime hydroxyl group of first nucleotide, so that is this one, with the 5 prime phosphates hydroxyl group of the second nucleotide, so of this one. So it is forming an ester bond, as already one ester bond is present in the nucleotide. So we'll call this bond as so phosphodiester bond. Phosphodiester bond. So this is how two nucleotides will join to form a dinucleotide. So it's very simple. So you need to practice the structure of a nucleotide first. Then you need to understand so which is going to interact. The 3' hydroxyl group of first nucleotide and the 5' phosphate hydroxyl group of second nucleotide so will interact to form a phosphodiester bond. Now we'll try to observe this with the help of the NCRT explained diagram. So you can prefer which you can easily write so that you can practice. So dinucleotide formation so may be expected for 2-mark question. Especially this interaction points and all will be very important for 1-mark point of view. Try to remember the bond which links the two nucleotide is phosphodiester bond and which group of the nucleotides will interact if it is as 3' hydroxyl group of first nucleotide and 5' hydroxyl group of the phosphate will interact with the phosphodiester bond. Now you can observe. So this is the diagram from NCRT. So they have considered this as a base, and these groups and all they have not mentioned. Just to show the interactive points they have considered. Now this is the 5' carbon. So this is the 3' carbon's hydroxyl group. Now this 3' hydroxyl group is going to interact with the 5' hydroxyl group of the phosphate of second nucleotide, and in the interaction so that is formed as a phosphodiester linkage. So after the linkage, you can observe the 5' of the first nucleotide is free and its 3' is involved in the bond, whereas its second nucleotide's 3' hydroxyl group is free. Hence, the polynucleotide chain when we are representing, it is represented by 5' to 3' direction. The same in simple diagram. So you can understand through NCRT explained diagram. Hope this information is clear. Now we'll try to understand the detailed structure of nucleic acids, how it is going to form. Now we'll try to understand the structure of nucleic acid. Now, as we discussed under proteins, the nucleic acid structures can be learned. So there we learned primary, secondary, tertiary and quaternary structure. With respect to nucleic acid, so we learn with respect to primary structure and secondary structure. Primary structure of nucleic acid and secondary structure of nucleic acids. Now, before going to that primary structure and secondary structure in detail, now nucleic acids, either DNA or RNA, if you take the DNA or RNA as a macromolecule, to consider how the high level molecular mass compound is formed. So it is through repeated addition of many nucleotides. So many nucleotides will join. So in the previous way, how a dinucleotide is shown, in the same way, many nucleotides will keep on joining to form a polynucleotide chain. A polynucleotide chain. So in the formation of this polynucleotide chain, so the monomers or nucleotides. So in the case of proteins, it is amino acids or the monomers. In this case of nucleic acid, either in DNA or RNA, the polynucleotide chain which is formed having the nucleotides as monomers. So n number of such nucleotides will join so through phosphodiester linkages. So the monomer addition takes place through the formation of phosphodiester linkage. So in the case of proteins, the bond linking the two amino acids we can consider. So hope you remembered it. It is a peptide bond or an amide bond which links the two amino acids. So here in the case of DNA or RNA, the two nucleotides are joined with the help of phosphodiester linkage. You can recall the previous dinucleotide structure, how these phosphodiester linkages are formed. Now, if we recall these concepts, then the level of structures is easy to learn. Now, the primary structure of nucleic acid explains the sequence of nucleotides present. The sequence of the nucleotides so which are present in a polynucleotide chain. So like in polypeptide chain, how the amino acid sequence are present in proteins, in the same way sequence of nucleotides in polynucleotide chain so will give the primary structure of nucleic acids. So here if we take either DNA or RNA, so first level of structure what we need to understand is the primary structure, whereas the secondary structure is shown by DNA. So DNA exists only in its secondary structure. Whereas if we take RNA, so in the case of RNA, so you are going to see, so RNA is single stranded. So secondary structure is seen with respect to only one type of RNA, that is tRNA, transfer RNA. Only tRNA of the RNA nucleic acid will show the secondary structure. So remaining all are single stranded. So they are so explained with their primary structures that we'll try to understand now in detail. So here strands or polynucleotide chains can be taken to explain. So in the primary structure, if we take, so they are containing polynucleotide chains. So here a single stranded is seen only for RNA, whereas DNA is always exists in two strands in its secondary structure. So how that is formed? So we'll try to consider. So with DNA first. So everyone knows, I think, so it is through the Watson and Crick model, so which explains the wounding of polynucleotide chain. So which will twist like a ladder. So with 10 base pairs in the each particular twist. So repeated DNA strands are going to form. So there is a concept of Chargaff rule of base pairing, how the two nucleotides interacts between the two polynucleotide chains we need to observe. So it is through the nitrogenous bases which are present in the nucleotides will involve in the formation of hydrogen bond. And the force stabilizing in secondary structure is hydrogen bond. So how we have seen in the case of the proteins. And if we take for the secondary structure, so we need to understand the base pairing concept, the concept of base pairing. So here purine will always base pair with pyrimidine. Purines will always base pair with pyrimidine. So during the formation of secondary structure through hydrogen bonds. So if we take the purine, it is adenine, guanine. So pyrimidines are cytosine, common for both DNA and RNA. Thiamine seen only in DNA, and uracil seen only in RNA. So if we take their base pairing, so adenine base pairs always with thiamine through the formation of two hydrogen bonds in the case of DNA. If it is in RNA, adenine base pairs with uracil, so again with two hydrogen bonds. The two hydrogen bonds so will makes the base pairing of the two nitrogenous bases of the respective nucleotides so in the twist. So once the secondary structure forms either in the case of DNA or in the case of RNA, so adenine of DNA will always base pairs with thiamine, whereas adenine of RNA is always base pairs with uracil. So this is how the two hydrogen bonds will link the purine and pyrimidine in the case of adenine thiamine, adenine uracil. Similarly, if you take guanine, so guanine is a common nitrogenous base for both DNA and RNA, and cytosine again a common pyrimidine base of both DNA and RNA. So with the three hydrogen bonds, guanine base pairs with cytosine. So the hydrogen bond complicated structure is not required for you to learn. so which is a very high level of study with respect to nucleic acid. So it is not mentioned in your syllabus. So just at least the number of hydrogen bond information and the base pairing nucleotides you need to practice. So adenine with thymine in the case of DNA, adenine with uracil in the case of RNA, and guanine with cytosine in the case of both DNA or in RNA. So this is with respect to secondary structure, how polynucleotide chains interact. So during their twisting of nucleotide chains, so we are going to see these base pairing takes place. So this base pairing concept was explained by Chargaff's. So Chargaff's rule, according to the rule, so a purine and pyrimidine base is held through the formation of hydrogen bonds. Now you can observe. So this structure, whatever it is represented here, so it is the secondary structure of DNA explained by Watson and Crick. So it is James Watson and Francis Crick. So who proposed the structure of DNA? So and they got the Nobel Prize for their discovery. So accordingly, so Watson and Crick model of DNA, if we take, so it explains better so how the secondary structure of DNA forms. So actually DNA exists in three different types. They are called as bDNA, dzDNA, and zDNA. So the structure what we are seeing here, it is a representation of bDNA. Now if we take here, so you observe this 5 prime and 3 prime end. So we know that a polynucleotide chain of one nucleotide, so it is from 5 prime to, just observe the structure. This is one nucleotide strand starting from 5 prime to 3 prime end. Similarly, another nucleotide strand like a ladder, so it will twist. So starting from 5 prime here to 3 prime. So one running in this direction and another 5 prime to 3 prime running in this direction. So each one strand, that is 5 prime to 3 prime strand, so is a one polynucleotide chain, so which is considered as a strand. So these two polynucleotide strands, so they will twist, and during their twist, their nitrogenous bases will come in vicinity. And those nitrogenous bases which are coming in vicinity, so they are going to held up with the formation of hydrogen bonds. Now whatever it is shown here, the previous base pair concept you can recall. So it is adenine, if it comes, it base pairs with the guanine during the twist of the another nucleotide chain. Similarly, if you take, if it is cytosine, small mistake there, you can correct. It is adenine always base pairs with thymine. Then if it is with guanine with 3 hydrogen bonds, it is with cytosine. Similarly, somewhere here guanine, so with 3 hydrogen bonds with cytosine, or if it is cytosine with 3 hydrogen bonds with guanine. Similarly, if it is thymine comes here, so will base pairs with adenine. Similarly, adenine comes here, will base pairs with thymine. So like this, in each twist, there will be 10 base pairs. I have shown only 4 here. So in each twist, you are going to see that. So there will be 10 base pairs are going to observe. So like this, so we are going to see the secondary structure for the formation of DNA and the hydrogen bonds which are formed. So during the twist, so they are holding the two strands, so any structural stability for the molecules. Now the both strands, if we take, so they run in, so one runs in 5 prime to 3 prime direction and another again 5 prime to 3 prime in this way. So hence, so these are anti-parallel. So one runs in 5 prime to 3 prime in this direction, another 5 prime to 3 prime in this direction. So like this, a double-stranded DNA is going to be formed, so which explains the secondary structure of DNA. So hope the secondary structure of DNA is clear. So you're not required to write all these structures and all. So you need to understand how the secondary structure forms for nucleic acids with respect to DNA. So Watson and Crick model supports that. So how all these concepts are remembered. Now we'll learn with respect to RNA. We'll see the types of RNA, and with respect to tRNA, we'll learn how the secondary structure is formed. Now, with respect to RNA, we'll understand what are the three types of RNA, and we'll mention the importance of those RNAs, so that will be helpful for us to learn the next concept, biological importance of nucleic acid. Now, there are three types of RNAs. So there are three types of RNA, three different types. One is mRNA. M stands for messenger RNA. Second one, tRNA. T stands for transfer RNA. And the third one, it is rRNA, all with small letters, M, T, and R. It is ribosomal RNA. You can remember as MTR, messenger, transfer, and ribosomal. With respect to the protein synthesis, so we are having these informations. The main role of protein is that, so it is involved in protein synthesis. So mRNA or messenger RNA, if we take, so the information for protein synthesis, whatever the information in the form of triplet codes as a genetic code, so necessary for protein synthesis, three nucleotides together in the mRNA strand act as a respective code, a genetic code. So where the initiation of protein synthesis takes place, and next, so repeated three nucleotides will be continued to read on the complete strand of mRNA for the protein synthesis. Hence, the information for protein synthesis is stored in mRNA, hence it acts as messenger RNA. So mRNA, so will store the information necessary for the protein synthesis, like a message, how it is read. So the information present in the mRNA is read. So then the tRNA, it is called as transfer RNA. Here, whatever the amino acid required, so we know that amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. The amino acid responsible for the triplet code, that is the three nucleotides as it is formed as a genetic code, that three nucleotide code is responsible for one amino acid to get into the protein. So that amino acid is bring by the tRNA. So transfer RNA will carries that amino acid in the form of amino acyl tRNA. So it will bring to mRNA the information of mRNA read. So will make the tRNA to carry the respective amino acid during the protein synthesis. Then if we take rRNA, ribosomal RNA, so we know that ribosomes are protein synthesizing factories. Ribosome are protein synthesizing factories. That means in our body, So where protein synthesis occurs is in ribosomes. Ribosomes will give the site, that is a place for protein synthesis to occur. So we have two types of the ribosome subunits. So everyone knows that in prokaryotes and eukaryotes, what are all the ribosomal units? So in us, that is in eukaryotes, so we have 60S and 40S subunit of ribosomes, a bigger subunit and a smaller subunit. So this ribosomal subunits, so will give the site, refers to the place for protein synthesis. So this is what the process of translation actually taking place. So now whatever the DNA storing information is there, so that is transcribed to mRNA. So that message present in the mRNA is read and decoded so by the tRNA and will carry the respective amino acid. And for all these to occur, so the ribosomal RNA will give the place for the protein synthesis. So this is how the three types of RNAs will perform their role in the protein synthesis. For all these to occur, so we require the DNA. So DNA is responsible for generating all these continuation information that in the central dogma of molecular biology you can recall. So DNA have the ability to self-replicate and will undergo a transcription. In the transcription, the double-stranded DNA will give a single-stranded mRNA. Two single-stranded mRNAs will be obtained in the process of transcription. So those will be responsible for synthesizing the proteins. So this is what the types of three RNAs in simple what you need to remember. So here the secondary structure to consider. So you need to remember the tRNA. tRNA is the type of RNA which is exists in secondary structure. It exists in secondary structure. So here, if you recall these points of DNA and RNA, differentiation questions will be asked. Now, DNA is a double-stranded always. RNA is a single-stranded. The major difference between the DNA and RNA is that DNA is always double-stranded and exists only in secondary structure, whereas RNA is existing in only single strand, and except tRNA, remaining all will show only the primary structure. Then if it comes, you can take the base differences and pentose sugar differences. In RNA, the sugar present is ribose sugar. In DNA, the sugar present is deoxyribose sugar. And you can take the nitrogenous base difference. The nitrogenous base seen only in DNA is thiamine, and the nitrogenous base seen only in RNA is uracil. So these points you can take it as a difference between the DNA and RNA. So again, this is expected for 1 mark or 2 mark. So try to remember the differences between the DNA and RNA. So now in the secondary structure that you are going to learn in biology in detail, the tRNA, the clover leaf model of tRNA. So there you will see the structure of DNA like this. That is structure of tRNA like this, with three complete arms and one incomplete arm. So with the 5 prime and 3 prime direction. So you are going to see the arms as DHU arm, T pseudo uridyl C arm, then anticodon arm, and acceptor arm. So like this, you are going to see the four arms. So between the twist of nucleotide chain, you are going to see the formation of hydrogen bond, and you will have a small outgrowth like this, like a vermiform appendix. So you are going to have a structure like this. So this will be the structure of tRNA, how it looks. So it is not there in the syllabus to learn the structure, but with respect to biology, when you are relating, just recall those concepts and relate with respect to chemistry aspects, what we are learning in the unit. Now we'll learn the last aspect of nucleic acid. It is the biological importance of nucleic acids. Now, if it comes for the biological importance, the major significance of a central dogma of molecular biology you can recall. Now, the DNA, so which acts as a genetic material, that is information which is needed for hereditary characters, is stored in the form of DNA. So that DNA is having the ability of undergoing self-replication. So that means the two strands of DNA. So with the replication fork, so you are going to observe how the DNA will give the daughter cells. That is how a parental DNA will give daughter cells, that you are going to learn in molecular biology in detail with respect to subject biology. So try to recall there. So that significance is needed for us to understand in a better way. So you are going to learn that in detail in the subject biology. The replication of DNA, the two strands of DNA. So whatever you are going to see, so that is going to give two daughter cells. So that is the capability of DNA. DNA has the ability to undergo self-replication. So DNA is going to produce mRNA, messenger RNA, that is whatever the mRNA produced from DNA. So through a process called transcription, that is message necessary for the protein synthesis, so is transcribed as mRNA. So and from the mRNA, through a process of protein synthesis, so we are going to get a protein, and here the protein is obtaining the protein from mRNA is through a process called translation. So the self replication process, transcription process, and through translation process, so finally proteins are produced. So like this, whatever the sequence of information is there, so it gives the biological importance of nucleic acids. Now to conclude, so we can call, so the major role of nucleic acid is that, so they act as genetic materials. That means the information necessary for hereditary is stored in the form of nucleic acids. Then the second major role of the nucleic acid is that, so they involved in protein synthesis. They involved in protein synthesis. That is, you can explain the role of mRNA, the assistance from the tRNA and rRNA, everything here. So in relating the translation process finally for protein synthesis. So this is how we can explain the biological significance of nucleic acid as a hereditary information and as a protein synthesis as a major role of nucleic acid we are going to see in the biological system. We'll conclude the unit with this last simple concept. So it is hormones. So this information you are having as a supplement material in your part 2 textbook of NCERT. It is not there in the unit syllabus. So it is at last in the textbook it is available, and the questions based on hormones is a repeated 1 mark question for the final exam. So from past years they are repeating the question from hormones, hence try to concentrate this information very clearly. Now, we'll know what is hormone and what is the significance of hormone. With simple classification, we'll try to understand this. Now, what are hormones? So, if we understand hormones, so they are produced from the ductless glands of our body. So they are produced from the ductless glands. So hence, so they are responsible for the message needed, hence they are considered as biochemical messengers. Hormones are the biochemical messengers. So the message needed for the biochemical activity to takes place within us is initiated through hormones, whatever the biochemical activity. So for that, the message is transferred through the hormones. Hence, they are called as biochemical messengers. So, and these biochemical messengers as hormones are produced by the ductless glands in our body. Oh, you know what are the ductless glands in our body? It is endocrine glands. The ductless glands of our body is endocrine glands. So these chemical substances, which are produced from ductless glands, acts as biochemical messengers, are called as hormones. Now, hormones play a vital role in the living system. Without hormones, no chemical pathway, that is a biochemical pathway, is initiated within us. For example, so if we take the food, so it is a complex process of initiation to give the energy. So there, one of the simple role how the glucose yields energy. Now to maintain that glucose released from the food as a major energy yielding biomolecule. So it is the two hormones responsible for that. It is insulin and glucagon. So these two will regulate the blood sugar level. So if the blood sugar level increases, so what happens? Insulin is immediately released as a response to reduce that blood glucose level. On the other hand, if the blood glucose level is reduced, if it is very less, so glucagon will be released from the pancreas. So the insulin and glucagon, so which is released from the beta cells of pancreas, are responsible for regulating the blood sugar level. So whatever the alpha cells and beta cells of pancreas if we take, so those are the ductless glands in our body, as an example endocrine gland. Similarly, there are more classifications of hormones to understand. So we'll learn few simple classification. So the major classification part we'll try to learn in the syllabus, and we'll know few simple hormones and their respective significances. So to recall, hormones are the biochemical messengers, so which are produced by ductless glands in our body. Now, if we observe, we have three main classification of hormones. We have three simple and very important classification. It is the steroid hormones, polypeptide hormones, and amino acid derivatives. Few examples of that I have mentioned here. So the hormones which are steroidal in nature, containing the steroid ring, are called as steroid hormones. So steroid ring will look like this, so which is not required. So just to understand, I am mentioning the ring. So this ring is called as the steroid ring. So this kind of steroid ring containing biomolecules, so under hormones class, so we are classified as steroid hormones. Such examples are estrogen and androgen. So both we know that they are the sex hormones. Similarly, the hormones which are with polypeptide chain, so exhibiting the biochemical messenger role, so are classified as polypeptide hormones, are also called as protein hormones. So polypeptide chain as a protein, so it acts as hormone. Such hormones are called as polypeptide hormones. Example, insulin and endorphins. And certain amino acid derivatives will act as hormones. Such hormones are called as amino acid derivatives. Example, epinephrine, norepinephrine, thyroxine. So these are few simple examples of the classification of hormones to support. Now we have in the syllabus few hormones to learn in detail. One is insulin. Along with that, we can learn glucagon also. So insulin and glucagon are the two hormones so which regulates the blood sugar level. They regulates blood sugar level. So that is hypoglycemic and hyperglycemic factor. That is, if blood sugar level increases, then insulin will be produced. If the blood sugar level decreases, then the glucagon will be produced. So it is to make hyper and hypoglycemic, the glycemic index, that is the glucose level, to maintain. So these two hormones will play an important role. So that you can concentrate here, one important. So with the use, so insulin is the hormone along with the glucagon is responsible for regulating the blood sugar level. Then if we consider thyroxine, so it is a derivative of the respective amino acid, so which is synthesized, that is which is produced by the thyroid glands, and this is a respective hormone so produced by tyrosine. Thyroxine is produced by, that is tyrosine, derivative of the amino acid is considered as thyroxine, and it is produced by the thyroid glands. And one special significance of thyroxine is that, so this is the hormone so which contains iodine. So thyroxine is iodine containing hormone. So and due to the deficiency of this, that is low level of iodine in the diet, may causes hypothyroidism, that is the enlargement of thyroid glands. So that is controlled by the thyroxine, so which is produced from the thyroid glands, so, and plays a very significant role in the living system. So these are the important classification of hormones with respect to insulin and glucagon. Along with that thyroxine, you can concentrate for your exam preparation. So classification is required. So try to learn the three different classification with at least one example to remember. Along with that, practice the biological significance of insulin and thyroxine. So with this, so we have completed all the concepts so from the biomolecules unit. So in the next class, we'll revise the previous year question bank information just to give the weightage of the unit. As the unit is 1 mark weightage unit, so try to focus all the concepts clearly. So in the next class, we'll conclude the unit with question bank revision. Thank you.